only the prologue. So, give me 1 second to check something real quick. Alright, I'm back. Sorry about that. I was just checking to make sure that it was compatible with the controller, but it doesn't look like it is. The road ran through a dense forest. I slowed down, looked around, lowered the car window. The smell of the forest burst in the car. The floor was humid and chilling. I coughed, getting a breath of the cold forest air. Last week I got a fever and laid around in bed for a week. The noxious feeling of sickness still didn't leave me alone. It is already April, but winter is not rushing to leave. Between the trees, dirty little islands of snow were thinning out. Bare, damp earth was slowly getting rid of its white disease. I wish I could say the same. This illness, still sitting inside me, was not letting me breathe freely. I was an hour and a half ride to Grandpa's, but I really didn't want to return to the city. My appointment with Trigger is tomorrow after lunch. There is no reason to rush. I tried to make the pleasure of traveling last longer and slowed down. Rain started knocking on the car's roof again, for the 100th time today. It was getting dark. Water drops spray is burning my face. I raised the window and turned on the wipers. I put my foot down, accelerating. A gray bird hit the windshield. Wipers threw it on the hood, smearing and mixing thick blood with the rain on the glass. I accelerated more until a gust of wind took down the body on the road. Probably this is when it all started. Let me tell you about myself, or a lot will be misunderstood. My name is Salver Yonrush, or just Sally. For 10 years, I was working as a forensic photographer. Why not a wedding one? That is a key question. I studied for a medical examiner, but decided to cheat on this job. I wanted to take pictures of corpses, not picking their insides. I don't care about flowers, landscapes, happiness on people's faces. I am a deaths photographer. Pathologist. I hope I pronounced that correctly. I only care about how things decompose. The beauty of decomposing bodies hypnotizes me. It contains some attractive force. Actually, the word beauty isn't exactly correct. It is something noble. Death is the source of life is its follow-up. You can look at it from another perspective. Coke turned inside out warms the same way. Death has a structure, composition. It is ideal, and life is an incomplete act. The universe started from death. My friends consider me a strange, social man. That is the truth. I don't like people. So what I think was they were trying to do antisocial. This game is also supposed to be in Russian, so I think it was created in Russian and then translated to English, which it's not fully catching together. People are just barrels of flesh and bones, full of lies. Benefit, lust, envy. That is all that drives them. It's not like a goner. A dead body drops all the humans' masks. It doesn't pretend it is neither a man nor a woman. It is united with eternity. However, there is one passion that connects me with the living obsession with horses. I cannot look at two. Yeah, I can infinitely look at two things: marble corpses, marble corpse sculpture, and graceful canter of a stallion that rushes to the horizon. This detrimental interest in these four-legged animals predetermined my destiny. About a year ago, I went to the Shitten and meadows to take pictures of grazing herds. Photographing horses and stallions, I got carried away like a thief in the pack. My guide screamed something and the convoy of horses rushed away. In the mist, dust, I fell down to the ground, almost like I got hit by a hammer. Darkness smothered me. Parts of reality and illusions chaotically blended into incoherent fragments. Dull flashes. My dead parents. Operating room. Unpleasant gazes from under the medical mask. Noises, whispers, melodies of an old man. I grieved with the help of a ventilator, sometimes seeing hallucinations. An old man to the left of me. Old man, why do I even care? Some weird unfamiliar feelings, scents, movements, sounds, vibrations surrounded that man. I was greedily absorbing the entire cacophony of inexistent elements. And then darkness. Light, blinding light in the end. Whatever it was, wherever I was, whatever I was, it rushed towards the light. A shaggy white head and a bent back of an old man appeared. He leaded the way while I followed him in this boundless universe. And then in enormous space, I felt its volume. I was inside a cell. I felt its size, and I knew that billions of those invisible cells surrounded me. Suddenly, a dark essence with a cloak of ash appeared in front. The old man stopped me too. The cloak wasn't made of fabric, but from the burnt ash. The face was covered in a baggy hood. Under the hood, a terrifying black abyss. Old man made 3 steps forward, standing next to the essence, and turned back to me. He leaned on his staff, a bag over his left shoulder, his face dissolving in the smoke. Only his messy hair was visible. The dark essence reached out to me with a loud, creaking voice. You are Earth. I wasn't sure what to respond with, and if I was able to speak. You are now this old man? My voice finally cut. Probably not. Just follow the light. Do you understand the dead? I feel them. Feeling them is not a mastery. Essence turned to the old man. Gave him coming. Man came up to me, gave me the staff, took off the bag, and put it over my left shoulder. What now? They will find you. Everything disappeared. I was falling down. I woke up in the hospital. All old man's bed was empty. Cold draft filled the room. It entered through a huge broken window, playing around with the terrible smell of medicine. The sharp feather of the glass cut howling, whistling wind. Nurses and a doctor came in. Confusion, noises, guesses about what happened were not ending. Old man left through the window. You could hear the voices of the medical staff. How did he jump out? Wasn't he in a coma? There was no man, no body. I was rapidly getting better. Springs of health woke up inside me. My brain formed new thoughts, completely different from what they were before. Perception, imagination, logic. All built up into a strange, irrational flow. One night, something pushed me. Like a zombie, I stood up and went to a neighboring room. They recently placed a young firefighter there, who was stuck between burning beams. He was dead. Everyone was sleeping, so his death was unnoticed. Cold sweat, shivers all over my body. Being there with the leaving firefighter's soul created spontaneous images of swirling layers of plasma. All kinds of colored dashes, sticks, geometric figures assembled into some unknown symbols. Until morning, I observed weird fiery patterns. Now, if someone died, I would always go to the dead and drop into trance. I watched the symbolic codes that flag around the soul, trying to understand their meaning. After fully recovering, I returned home. I was starting to make sense from these chaotic series of unending ideograms. Signs were falling into a strange, certain systematic groups. Later on, symbols constructed a systematic flow, something like a hybrid alphabet. There was no interest in forensic job anymore. I left. I received my severance pay and started roaming places where someone died. I read the information from the books, drawing tables, deciphering death signs and codes, writing them down in a big notebook. Trigger appeared 40 days after the old man incident. I was drinking coffee in a bar nearby and was writing down an idea that I got a piece of skin. A strong fear pierced my body. The feeling of upcoming danger came down to the bottom of my stomach. Trigger sat next to me. He found me. Trigger had a scary stare of an winking abyss. He was ready to devour me together with all of my past and future reincarnations. The waitress took his order like there was nothing wrong. I felt like I was the only one who could see his black hole face. It's time. Time to be useful. Well, I am in trouble. Do you know anything about purpose? A mission? Inside your mother's womb, you received your purpose. Why are you born? What do you need to achieve, to create? What to lose, what to win, what to destroy? The waitress brought him coffee. Sips of the brown liquid disappeared in the midst of his missing mouth. Something told me. You are by the side. Some things stay after death. Signs flying around the body. How many? thin pieces of living corpse. What you get is an information about the complete or incomplete corpse. 5 symbols about one's entire existence. In the end, was one's life worth or not? I got the shivers running all over my skin. 21st of every month, we meet here. Trigger gave me a little black as coal rectangular disc. The first list of people. The exact date. Read the codes during the first 3 days after death. Later, it is hard to retrieve the data. For now, start from Grand Polis. We will broaden it after our second meeting. I grab the disc, examining how it works. Scroll to the right, text appears. To the left, it disappears. And here's a little gift. You love horses. Trigger takes the disc, turning it on the other side. Extra selection. Winners of every race in the entire for the next 2 weeks. It's enough for your business. Complete a job. I gotta take the treatment complete. Digest it. Trigger went to the exit. His unfinished cup of coffee stayed on the table. I crossed the Rubicon. I took my mystical responsibilities in full seriousness. The first list contained 11 people. They were dying pretty uniformly during this month. The hardest part was to get a long time access to the body. Reading the code takes some time. I was very creative about it. Found the most extraordinary solutions. Learned what these people did for a living, their family and relatives. I hit the road for a year. Visited different places of my country where my corpses were located. In my free time, I went to the horse races and betting houses. Practiced horseback riding myself if I had a chance. I had been meeting Trigger once a month in a bar. I gave him the codes of my clients. By Trigger's rules, I had to write them on top of chicken eggs. Okay. I think it's nonsense. Something about world's creation, myths, legends, and so on. I adapted cells, the eggs, like biocontainers. 5 symbols for a single person in one row. That way the box contained 2 personalities that had lived their life. The list of clients who are entering the world of the dead only consisted of unordinary people. Famous writers, artists, scientists, politicians. Even if a person wasn't well known, he fell under the criteria of an yet unknown genius. It's just that his invention or piece of art are not recognized by the contemporaries. So let's come back to the beginning of my story. It was very dark. Car lights lit the road in fluorescent road signs. Hit the brakes. Cars steered. Tires squealed. In the middle of a road, like a frog, there sat a woman in a man's shirt soaking wet. I jumped out of the car. There was almost no rain already. Left boot sank in a puddle. I hopped over it to not wet my right foot too. I reached the woman. I almost hit you. Are you alright? She didn't even look up, just nodded. Why are you here? What happened? She slowly stood up. Her long wet hair completely covered her face. Do you want to go to the hospital? She shook her head. Where do you live? I'll drop you off. She nodded again and headed to the car. She stretched her hand and pointed at the signpost. Museum Manor, 0.9 kilometers, reserve, deep lake. Water slurped in my left shoe. The woman was unusual in every way. I opened the back door for her. She walked graciously, almost like flying. Her hair didn't let me see her face. White shirt was very tight around her breasts, waist, and hips. She looked like an ivory sculpture made by an artist who dreamed of a goddess. I was captivated, looking at her defile walk. The best word to explain it would be ethereal. She sat at the back seat. There was no visible underwear under the shirt. Getting back in the car, I hit the roof with my head and stepped in the puddle with both of my legs. It took me 3 times to start the engine. I was clearly nervous. I turned the car around to the estate's direction, slowly losing the shock from the accident that almost happened. The entire picture was building up in my head. Clearly, there was something wrong with the girl. There was no energy, vibration, sense. She was basically not dead or alive. Some unidentified emptiness sat behind my back. Invisible force brought my entire attention into the abyss. Stop. Jump out of the car and run away as fast as you can until this hypnotic connection with the black-haired stranger breaks. The only correct action. I need to do this now. Now. 900 meters. 900 meters to the mansion. To the manor. I found myself falling down in some hole between the present and future. Space and time were discharging, changing their poles. There was no flow of seconds. The matter of different mediums felt as a single one. It's hard to admit, but I wish that those 900 meters turned into 900 kilometers. I stretched the moment, making the time to stop. Damn the world. I only want one thing to stay the same. My car's cabin. Eden Garden with only 2 of us, she and I. I don't care if it's from hell or heaven, from the underworld or the skies, from another dimension or was created by an enthusiastic poet. I don't care if she sinks her teeth into my throat, drinking blood, or tears me into pieces. I don't need anything from her. She's sitting behind my back, and I want this to last forever. In the meantime, we reached cast iron inner gates. I pressed call on the intercom. The buzzer was beeping, breaking the forced silence. Finally, a woman responded. Museum opens tomorrow at 11. Wait, there's a girl. She asked me to bring her here. There was a pause. Drive through to the main palace stairs. Alloy gates slowly opened. I drove to the central building of the pack. Walking down the stairs, there was an elegant dame who you should not talk about her age. Behind her, there was an athletic strong man in white cap and a sailor's tunic. I went out of the car and headed towards the hostess. The dame introduced herself. Good night, I am Lady M, museum's warden. Lady M raised her hand towards the sailor. This is my assistant. You want to remember his Greek name anyway. You won't remember his Greek name, so we call him Boatman. Sailor didn't react on his introduction. He examined me with severe and friendly eyes. Salver, nice to meet you. Where's the woman? I returned to the car. Barely noticed her. She jumped right in the wheels. I opened the back door and she was not there. There's a little bit of water exactly where my stranger was seated. She couldn't leave. Unbelievable. Lady M questioningly he looked at my pale, scared face. What? Something mystical? She was always here. The man came up to the door and bent over the seat. He took a little piece of river weed from the little puddle. He showed it to Lady M and then went towards the household wing, which was behind the main building. Lady M smiled. Salber, was there a woman with you, or you made it up to break into the private territory? I was puzzled. Nonsense, I swear, there was a woman soaking wet wearing white man's shirt. A white men's shirt. My phrase removed the smile from Lady's face. It was serious. She knows something about the stranger. The girl pointed at your estate. You let me in with no questions, so you expected someone. Dear Salver, just Sally. Sally, apart from the museum, there's a choreography school. It works on the weekend. I am the director. Girls usually arrive on Sunday morning, and some earlier on Friday. Today's Friday. When you mentioned a girl, I thought you were talking one of my students. Lady M smiled. Nothing surprising. No more suspicions? I'm sorry. I can't believe it. It couldn't be a dream. Maybe. Lady M was examining me. She was clearly unsure, thoroughly thinking everything over. You can stay here overnight. If you stay, I'll tell you a suggestion about the disappearance of our companion. Sure, if it's not a problem. Not at all. Place your car in parking. I parked in between an old minivan and black limousine. I took a rag from the trunk to remove the only remainder of my strange passenger, puddle oil in the back seat. Clearing it up, I noticed a weak blue shining coming from the liquid. Defocusing during my usual session with the dead, I looked at refractions of light and distinguished two signs. I grabbed a pen from the glove box and drew them on my left palm to remember them. Shining stopped. I dried out the seat and headed to the main entrance where Lady M was waiting for me. Museum hall's lighting was very weak. Paintings that were passing by created an paintings that we were passing by created an additional sullenness. Faces of powerful people in the portraits escorted me with their scary glances. Utterly gothic, I doubted. Why did I agree to stay here? Odd host, old manor. The boatman is clearly a criminal. Lady M stopped at one of the paintings. That's Count Cherish. He got these lands as a gift from the Empress. The only original painting here, the rest are replicas. Originals are all around the capital's museums. Lady M addressed the Count's portrait. My lord, do you think this young man to stay in your palace? The Count had a prideful and curious look over my modest persona. I needed to leave, tell her about an urgent matter, and drive away before midnight. I remember a couple of dozens of stories about a character who stayed overnight at a castle or some other creepy place and is found dead in the morning. But ladies promised to tell me about this girl's disappearance still preoccupied me, sending away those cowardly thoughts. I myself am an unusual man, speaking with the dead. For real, what's wrong with me? I can scare anyone myself. Lady M looked at me in a way, as if she expected me to talk to the Count. Something like, oh, I am so honored, blah blah blah. I shifted from foot to foot, remembering my wet feet. Water slurped in my boots. My legs are soaking. Is it possible to dry somewhere? Lady M laughed. Sally, you are lovely. Let's go to the buffet. Dry wood crackled in the chimney. I stretched my legs to fire and hid under a warm blanket. In an old 19th century chair, probably a cultural heritage, Lady M brought a cup of steaming liquid. First, herbs for cold. Oh, microelements of phytotherapy. Lady M sat on the second chair by the fireplace. Sally, what do you do for a living? Freelance communications. Programmer? Yeah, retrieving the lost data for some devices. Nothing special. I was nervous. I needed to change the topic before I didn't say anything extra. Can you actually put on a fire in a museum? Museum is on the other side of the palace. We are on the side with the administration block and dancing classes. You wanted to tell me about the woman that I failed to bring here. I already regret that I promised. My dad was the warden here, and before it was my grandfather. Did you visit the lake nearby? No, didn't have a chance. Its shape is almost a perfect circle. No one has ever reached its floor. How is it that even how is that even possible? With all the modern equipment? They tried to, but stopped. Some karst vortex effect. There's a lot of rumors, legends, and myths about the lake. Before Count Cherish moved here, locals considered this lake cursed. Long ago, before the palace, his place was home of General Dragon. He had a son. The son loved Miller's daughter from the nearby village and asked his father's permission to marry her. But when Dragon saw her, he decided to marry her himself. There was a war up north in Sweden at the time. The following day after the engagement, Dragon sent his son to the battle. His son died there. The woman lived at the chief's house, waiting for her groom. Dragon wasn't letting the girl out and was forcing her to marry him. The only place she could go to, accompanied by guards, was the lake. During one of some strolls, she jumped in the water and drowned. Body still hasn't been found. My feet were warm, almost burning. I dropped the blanket, sat cross-legged, making myself feel more comfortable. Lady M continued the story, staring at the flames and tongues. In my mind, I was marking points that bothered me the most. Creepy place, check. Scary bedtime story, check. I felt that a lot is going to happen to me at this noble rancho. Lady M continued. Dying from grief, Dragon rowed a boat to find his lover. On the third day, at night, the drowned shook the surface of the water and pulled Dragon to the lake's depths. Next morning, he was found dead, naked to the waist. In 9 days, she went out on the shore. She wore Dragon's red satin carton. Dragon's servants ran away. Floater burned the general's house and hid underwater. People gave her a name, Chernodonna. After finishing my tea, I was looking for a place to put the cup. The only horizontal surface was the floor. Not coming up with a better alternative, I placed the empty mug on the antique parquet. Ow, that's rough. And what is the connection with my companion? Since then, Chernodonna roams out the nearby forest, looking for her next victim. They are exclusively men. They are found on the shore or in the lake, all shirtless. After that, ghostly Chernodonna silhouette is seen next to the lake. She walks around with loose black soot hair, throwing the most recent victim's clothes on top of her naked body. I was remembering pictures of the stranger on the road. Wet white shirt, hair black as crow's wings in an unstoppable magnetic force. I swear there was nothing demonic in this force. You cannot fool me with such things. Years ago, a young student died. He came here with an excursion. His stolen body was found a week later in jeans and boots, but no shirt. After that, there were no accidents at all until today. Did someone drown today? Fortunately, no. And the question why bothers me. Wait. Damn it, what do you mean? What are those implications? I broke into a cold sweat. Sally, remember the details. Did you see her close? Very close. Can't see her face. It's covered with black hair. White shirt, shark collar. A tick trembled muscles around my mouth. Right leg was shaking. On the shirt, to the left, was a pocket. Text, name of a brand. I was shivering. Lady M described her. She was right by the side at the moment. Armando Brosi. Armando Brosi. We said those words simultaneously. Well, now I am actually scared. I was mumbling. Are you a psychic? Oracle? You can see past? No. I saw Madonna in Armando Brosi's shirt yesterday. I heard steps of heavy boots. Boatman has entered the buffet. Lady M turned to him. It started. Excuse me, Sally. You've got to go. The room is ready for you. Wait, explain? Lady M raised her tone. We'll talk tomorrow. I have chores that cannot wait. Lady M left the room. Boatman Lee smiled and we followed her. I was fidgeting at the broken sofa the owner left me, trying to find a comfortable position for not to fall down. The room looked like some barricades built of old furniture, stolen from bourgeoisie houses. Probably they brought here all the junk from the palace that you can't show in the exhibit. Outer chaos of all the events matched the confusion of my thoughts. So much absurd things happened in the last 3 hours. I spread wide my left hand and stared at the two symbols, carelessly written with a pen. Hopefully their meaning is a key to the mystery of the late girl. Her charming look doesn't leave my head. Eyes closed, dream overtook my exhausted body. Kaleidoscope of pictures like shards of surrealistic imagination whirled in my head. I galloped on top of a wild stallion on a sandy lakeside. Water drops flew from under the hooves of my rapid steed. In front of me ran the black-haired girl barefoot in a white shirt. She looked at me and laughed. I bent over and grabbed her. The horse jumped in the water, dipping us in the little waves. The woman swam to the middle of the lake, guided the stallion by the bridle, and me on top of it, holding its mane. We shouted with laughter. The horse sniffed. I woke up on the floor. Sunlight filled the messy bedroom. The dusk glowed in the sun's rays. I still heard the horse's neigh. I shook my head to lose the sound. There was a little bit of long black hair in my hand. Those were not women's hair. Hard horse hair. It was difficult to confuse them. I loudly sneezed and stood up. I laughed. I thought of Daoism parable about Zhuan Zhou, who turned into a butterfly while he slept. When will this craziness stop? Was it Zhuan Zhou who dreamed that he is a butterfly? Or was it the butterfly's dream? That is Zhuan Zhou. Was it I who had the horse? Or horse who had me? That's stupid. My medical examiner sighed, decided not to throw away the physical evidence. I tore a piece of wrapping paper. It covered the broken porcelain tureen and accurately packaged the hair. After fixing my appearance, I went to explore the rooms and halls of the mansion. I heard the sound of piano. I followed the melody of classical music and found myself in a choreography chamber filled with a swarm of girls and women. An old dame in a dress sat by the piano. 30 or more girls, directed by Lady M, worked by the wall. Women about 13 to 24 years old, organized in little groups of 4 people, depending on their ages. Dressed in a tri-cut gaiters, short little tulle skirts, dancers reminded me of an alive rhythmic mechanism which is ruled by an iron will of the ballet master. Lady M stood by the group of the youngest dancers, remarking their technique. My parents brought noise and laughter and mischievous children. Lady by the piano stopped playing. Noticing me, Lady M called on the older girls. Karina, substitute me. Make a break in 20 minutes. Blessed Karina came up to the center and chattered incomprehensible ballet words. Good day. Good morning. Did you sleep well? Spent an unforgettable night among the antiques. Do you mind a breakfast? After your scary stories, I can't even think of food. We didn't finish our talk. I'll accept any nonsense while being hungry. That's positive. We entered a little cabinet. A decorative screen styled Japanese Meisho-i painting split the room. Behind the screen was a square table and 2 chairs. Please sit down. I followed the orders. Lady M took 2 card decks from a little cupboard, put them in the middle, and sat opposite of me. I was very curious to ask more about yesterday's incident. What didn't she say about Chernodona? But on the outside, I depicted a cynic person who doesn't really care about the whole story. Do you rely on your destiny? Maybe. Choose a deck. They looked the same. Card backs were symmetrically filled by an identical pattern. I took the left one. Lady M grabbed the other one. She flipped her deck so that I saw the bottom card. It was the Jack of Hearts. I showed the lady my bottom card. 10 of diamonds. White start. Card back were exactly the same. However, my card's face was black while hers was white. Do we play with both decks at the same time? That are the rules. Double solitaire. Let's call it the Dance of Incarnations. You don't need to think. It's already done for you. Repeat my passes as a mirror. Lady M actively tossed her deck. Toss your cards. Did what she asked me. Lady M removed the top card and placed it on the edge of the table. Then she moved her deck to the center and swapped 2 decks. I placed the top card to my right and repeated everything that Lady M did. Right? We needed to swap decks after taking a card. She put the next card next to the first one and continued the row. By the 8th turn, the table ended, like it was made for exactly 8 cards. Lady M and then I completed the second row of 7 cards. The following row each had 1 card less. Our pyramids of black and white cards faced each other at the varnished desk surface. I was bored by what was happening, not getting the reason to all these actions. Oh, he started to be sarcastic. That is a very very exciting solitaire. Awfully interesting. When do we start bluffing? Lady M smirked. Trust me, when we lay out all the cards, you will love the game. The second to last row of the two decks, where both sides hanged on one another, on top of each other. There was the last piece of the puzzle left, the last card, so that our decks connect, like yin and yang. Lady M placed her last card. It was a Queen of Hearts. She gave me a pensive look. Both she and I surely knew her card was still not on the desk. I finished the system with whatever I had left. Queen of Spades. That's it. No more stakes. Bitch, finally, explain everything. Stop the aristocracy things. Who won? Win or lose, it doesn't matter. But it's hard to know if you will be able to leave alive. Lady M collected all the cards, leaving the queens. Do you interpret allegories? Do you tell fortunes on decks? And finally, tell me, did you see Shona King Patricia? Yes, I called her. This is unhidden humiliation. This unhidden humiliation really annoyed me. Called her? Deep message. I completed a spiritual session. Lady M stood up. Took a manuscript diary and placed it in front of me. I quickly looked through its pages. Even as a kid, I kept running across the ghost of Shernadona. I know all about her. Every story, belief, ceremony. You can call me her biographer. Our meetings were random, transient, just for a couple of seconds. Yesterday was one of your transient meetings. No, yesterday I called her on purpose. About 100 years ago, the mansion had a guest. Famous composer Stravinsky. Do you know him? I prefer metal. He wrote a Deep Lake Symphony. The music filled with the legends about the lake undying, her unfortunate love and insidiousness. I'm doing the dance with the girls. Ephemeral dance. Tantric rhythm of feelings of the deceived woman drowning in chaos of the lake's black depths. That's romantic. Do I need the dance dragon's part? Did I guess right? Lady M laughed. Almost. Actually, I felt as a fool who participated in a little theater performance in a madhouse. You need to persuade Shernadona to participate in my performance. Well, that is not a museum manor. It is a psychiatric asylum. Alright, I'll think about it, but I've got to go. I stood up. I'll let you know about my decision later. Of course, she knew that I was messing with her. She yelled at me disrespectfully and rude. Sit, you clown. I felt heavy man's arms on my shoulders. He was right behind my back. He forced me back in the chair. Lady M bent over the table. Her hands were at its corners. Listen carefully, boy. This is not a joke. She already dragged you in this game. She marked you. She unceremoniously touched my cheek with her thin fingers that smelled of expensive perfume. You are lucky. Shernadona didn't drown you yet. She'll have a bit of fun. No one will help you except for me. I decided to cool it down. Okay, explain it with more concrete. Trust me, Sally. In 50 years that I've lived here, any Shernadonna's appearance means one more drowner. If a man sees her, his life ends. From what I remember from a dozen or specific occasions, you're the first, probably the only one, an exception. down. She sat back to the chair. I don't know. What did she like about you? I doubted. Was it delusion? Or was she actually right? She chose you. Otherwise, Boatman would take your half-naked corpse out of the lake. Say, everything is exactly how you say it. How do I meet Sharonona again to discuss your offer? God, what am I even saying? Boatman will help finding her. Sally, the most important. I will not only save your life, I will pay anything you want. I am rich. Well, as expected, delusion of grandeur, delusion of persecution. And if I refuse? I pointed my thumb at the boatman. Your grumpy assistant kills me? Shinodona kills you later on, without our help. That is just a question of time. I am trying to tell you that your danger in giving you a chance to survive. It's your choice to make. So now I can just walk out the door and no one will interrupt me? Yes. Okay. I stood up. Boatman stepped back. I walked out the room. No one followed me. Walking for a couple of meters in the hall, I suddenly turned around and came back to the lady's cabinet. She was still sitting by the desk and smoked through a black pearlescent reed. I sat back at my place. She wasn't surprised. Pointed at the queen cards that were still playing down in the middle. What does that mean? Lady M moved the queen of spades closer to me. In this game, our role is just the role of mediators. You are on the evil side. She pulled the queen of hearts closer to herself. I am on the good side. Taking my queen of spades in my right hand, I raised it, pointing on it with my left index finger. And this is Shinodona. Lady M nodded, puffing in the cigarette. And your ephemeral tantric performance. She dances herself. Lady M released a flow of smoke towards me. Holding the reed between her right hand fingers, she picked up the queen of hearts. Shinodona's part is for a prima. A woman with talent that will show the expression and energy of the Lake Undyne. Do you have a candidate for the role? Not yet. Shinodona herself will choose a dancer who will play her on scene. Shinodona won't dance at all. She's needed for the atmosphere. Just once at the premiere, she needs to be to the auditorium to scare everyone, to show that death is inevitable. He probably felt the adrenaline too. Unbelievable effect, stronger than sexual orgasm. Okay. No doubts about that, but it wasn't fear that felt during Shernadona's presence. I have something at Grand Palace. I can't skip it. Without my defense, consider yourself dead. You keep telling me that you will help me. I don't feel any danger though. Yes, I brought the woman. She disappeared from the car. Weird? Yes. Where is the risk? Lady M took a black amulet from a little silver box. Take it. This amulet protected my grandfather and father from our charms. Thank you, but I'll figure out my safety myself. Lady M unceremoniously and forcefully pushed the amulet inside the pocket of my shirt. No one holds you here. I really want to deal with that situation. I need to think through everything. To think. Lady M waved her cigarette. Sally, there's no reason for me to force you to stay. You are your own enemy if you don't come back. If you agree, welcome to our Thanatological Reserve. The road ran through a dense forest. It was another hour and a half until I reached Grand Palace. I really didn't want to be late to meet Trigger. Enough adventures for my ass today. Disturbing thoughts attacked my brain, creating negative scenarios of future events. I opened the window. Fresh forced air filled the car. I needed to forget about everything for now. We will see tomorrow. An involuntary smile stretched across my face. After all, how amazing was the woman who sat behind my back yesterday? And that is the end of the prologue. I actually kind of like that. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see y'all tomorrow with more Mortals Phoenix Rising. Bye, y'all.